Hello everyone. Today I'm here with another review of The Passage by Justin Cronin. And in case you can't tell, yes, I filmed this video the same day that I filmed my fangirl review. Can you tell by my hair, my beautiful green shirt? So, The Passage, in terms of plot, I'm going to be kind of vague because it's one of those books that benefits from you not knowing anything about it, and the back description tells you actually very little about what this huge, thick book is about. So, in this book there is an apocalyptic event, and the story talks about the beginning, like right before that apocalyptic event, and then it talks about the aftermath, essentially, of the apocalyptic event. And the only other thing that I think is important to know is that it's also the tale of Amy, who's a little girl, I mean like literally a little girl, she's like 6, and she is the only one who can save the world. And so that's sort of what it's about. Again, I'm sorry that I'm being really vague, but it's one of those books, trust me, if you read it, you'll benefit from not knowing anything about it in details. It'll be more surprising for you. I really liked the characters of the novel. They were really, really different. It's kind of a big ensemble novel to a certain extent. There's definitely a lot of characters in the book that all feel super different. Like, everything is different. You get to kind of see from a bunch of different characters' perspectives too, which is cool, and they all feel really different. They're all written sort of differently, and they just also feel super real. Like, they get petty and jealous, and they have, you know, they don't always want to play for the team. They don't always want to do what's best for everybody. They, you know, survive or whatever. They want to do what's best for them. You know, they have dreams and hopes and desires and secrets too, tons of secrets. And it was really interesting just to see so many characters that felt like real people, and like you kind of start caring about them as like people and not so much as just characters in a book, which is kind of cool. The plot is just all over the place. There's twists and turns and loop-de-loops. You're never ever going to guess what's going to happen next. Like, even if you think you know what's going to happen, even if you're like, oh, this is probably what's going to go down, it's not. I promise you. It's going to not be what you think at all. Something that happens, like, in the very beginning of the book can come back and be really important towards the end. It's all over the place, and it's great for that kind of stuff, too. Writing is super engaging and really crisp, and it's, like, enthralling. All you want to do is you just want to keep going with it. It, like, flows really, really well. And I think that's something that Justin Cronin really has a strength with. This is the only book of his that I've ever read, but just seeing the way that he wrote the descriptions of things, the way that he describes his characters and their kind of, like, their motivations and stuff is it's just really good writing. The writing is just great. Is really just kind of the summary there. As far as an apocalyptic sort of dystopian-ish novel, maybe not dystopian. I feel like a lot of those novels you start in the thing, you know, 20 years ago, 40 years ago, 100 years ago, the world ended. But that doesn't really matter because right now, we're talking about what's the new world. So kind of with this book, it's really interesting to see the events and to watch the world fall apart. It's also really sad and distressing at times, which is part of the reason why it took me almost 3 months to read this book, is aside from the fact that it's a beast, it gets really distressing at times and really sad, and you're just like, oh, I need to not read this for like a day or two. It's really interesting to kind of watch it fall apart and then see what happens and see how everything sort of changes and kind of gets differently, which I thought was cool. So hopefully more apocalyptic dystopian novels will do that kind of thing, although maybe I don't want them to, because I don't know if I want to see the world blow up every other week. It's long. You know, it's almost 9, it's a little over 800 pages, almost 850 probably, and sometimes this book feels long. I mean, I'll definitely agree with Stephen King, who says on the cover, you read this book and the ordinary world disappears. I don't know if that at all is in focus for you, but it says that. And that's true, I definitely agree. You get in this book and 3 hours later you're like, oh hey, it's like coming up for air, but there are sections of the book that you have to kind of slog through. It just kind of makes the book feel longer, which is a bummer, because I hate when long books feel long. I do love long books, I'm all about long books, but it's unfortunate when they kind of feel long. And then sometimes, as much as I really liked the writing, sometimes Justin Cronin gets a little too detailed about everything, and it gets a little tiring to read. You know, it'll be like the character put on his brown boot that had a small crack in the side from when he rode it on his horse when he was 5, and his brother laughed at him, and his father said that he could never be the great writer, or whatever. Everything in the book has details like that. When it can't just, you know, it's never just he put on his brown boot. It's always everything has a big long backstory, and that kind of makes it just adds too much sometimes. Sometimes you're like, I don't care about this at all. I just want to see, like, plot, what's going to happen. So that kind of got a little frustrating, at least for me. So Amy, like I was saying kind of in the summary, is sort of the important character. Not that every character isn't important, but she's sort of like the main character. And you never really get to experience anything from her perspective. He never really writes from her perspective, and she just remains, throughout the entire book, very mysterious. And it's kind of frustrating to not really understand anything about the character who's supposed to quote-unquote save the world and supposed to quote-unquote, you know, be like your main point of contact, I guess. And so I just recently, when I was writing my review and getting ready to film this, I looked up if I know there's a sequel, but I didn't know if it was like a duology or a series, and it looks like it's going to be a trilogy. So I'm sure throughout the rest of the books, there'll be a little bit more details about her. But it just, in the first book, I wish there had been more. Some of the sections, every section, I will say, has some important bit in it. Although there are some sections that feel more like they're filler than anything else. And when a book is really long, you want every page to count. You want all the words to count. You don't want there to be filler. If this book is only 300 pages long, I'd probably be okay with there being a little bit of filler. But when a book is this long, I don't want filler. I want action. I want stuff going on. And so there are sections that kind of felt a little fillery to me. But yes, overall, I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, I think. It was kind of more like 3.5, 3.75, because there were parts of it that just were difficult for me to get through and to read. But I definitely think it's interesting, and if you are interested in kind of apocalyptic novels or like dystopian-ish novels, especially if you read a lot of like YA and you want to try an adult kind of book, I would recommend maybe checking this one out. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye.